Welcome to the Dribble Podcast, your weekly fix of all things Perth Wildcats and Aussie basketball, presented by PerthNow.
Hello and welcome to the Dribble Podcast off the back of a title-winning weekend and a fairy tale finish to the career of our podcasting pal. My name's Chris Robinson from PerthNow in the West, and to those people listening, no matter how good your weekend was, I'm betting it's not quite as good as the man sitting next to me, retiring Perth Wildcats vice captain and now four-time NBL champion, Mr. Greg Hire. Greg, congratulations and welcome.
Thank you, mate. I'm hanging by a thread. Still celebrating the championship and the spoils that go with it and my career. So it was. Obviously, we've thought, let's get the podcast done and dusted before I somehow wake up in the Himalayas or something.
This was earlier than I was envisaging doing the podcast. I thought we'd just leave it for a few days and let you come back down to earth. Yeah. What has the past 40-odd hours been like for you?
Yeah, it's been... really good. It was really weird winning on the road the first time, and doing that. It was a bit special able to celebrate it on their home court. Not trying to say like that was a big thing, but to get it with the family and like a lot more intimate. Like it was this sort of a lot of time just sort of I was like there's only this is like the closest of the closest people that like with the team, so which is kind of
a little bit fitting after the season that you had with the kind of us against the world kind of thing. That it was just you guys,
exactly right. Yeah, it was even fun stuff, like even in a way like the lights were getting turned. It was like by the time our celebrations were done, it was like they're kicking us out, like, hey, you get out of here sort of stuff. No, really cool. And obviously to get into the airport, and it sort of was like a bit like surreal. It was like it reminded me of when like the Wildcats in the heyday were winning the championships. I remember getting to the airport at that time, and you're seeing like kids with their mums and dads, like knowing that they've got school the next day, like there, and it's sort of like if you wanted to enjoy the whole spectrum of your career and experience everything, like I ticked every single box, like winning on the road, in that sort of fashion, sweeps, like all that. It was just really, really cool. And obviously had the civic reception yesterday, and so it's been good. And we as a team, we had sort of a little get together with the partners last night again, and sort of enjoyed that. So I'm waiting until my wife tells me, all right, enough's enough. You got to get back into being a father and a husband, and the responsibility.
And shave, maybe. You still haven't shaved yet.
I've been lazy, and I don't know when I'll shave. Maybe my first job interview. See how long I hang on. But yeah, that was the thing. Even like the next day, people obviously beards straight off and doing all that sort of stuff. But I was like, nah, I'll just stick with it. So it's all good.
Like it. Got to ask you first and foremost, have you lost anything, or has anyone important lost anything? We've had some problems in the past with backpacks and rings and stuff. Has it been okay this time?
No, it's fine. I've been wearing all the championship rings over the time. I had one of them was like quite loose, so I put that straight away in my backpack. Okay. And was fortunate enough, and it was literally when I got home Monday morning at 5:30 or whatever it was. That was the first thing my wife said was like, please tell me you've got all the championship rings. Yeah, and I was like, yep, no worries, and still my uniform with the net around my head, and then that's how I woke up, and she was like, I think you need to have a shower.
How was that uniform smelling at that stage?
Yeah, it was bad, and I felt bad as well because like obviously a lot of the guys, like they just changed, and it was like myself and Jesse, maybe even Dame, I think, like we just kept the uniform on. Like I was like, no. Like, and I remember one time Brett said something about the uniforms, and my eyes were like lit up. I was like, you are not getting this uniform off me, mate. Like,
you're gonna have to come fight me for it.
Exactly right. And so like even on the plane, like that was the thing. We were in our own little sections, and guys were all about, and I was like, God, some people would be like, this guy stinks. Like, and then like, even once we got back to our function, like I remember hugging Bryce's partner, and I was like, oh, I apologise. Like, I haven't thought about this, and I stink. And she's like, it's fine, I understand. So, it was good. You got to relish it. I'm not going to be able to experience it again. So I did the full kit and caboodle and embrace it wholeheartedly as I do, and will continue to do so.
You mentioned the 4 rings. I loved that, and I love the fact that you were able to pose for photos over there. You had them in your celebrations. Can I ask what the process was like in terms of bringing them over? Was it you who brought them? Was it Ainsley? Did you know about it? Were you worried about it being jinxed if you didn't know about it? This
is a great conversation we had. So, literally on Saturday morning, I'm getting ready, packing my bags, and I've got my championship rings in my office. And after the Friday night game, I was like, I feel bloody good. I just thought, the way we played, I was like, I think, it's just sort of remind me a lot of the previous championships, and it's all that defensive mindset. And I was like, in such a quick turnaround, I just don't know if Melbourne can change enough things to be able to counter that. So I was like, all right. And a big part of that was always I remembered always wanting to take photos. A few years ago, there was that Kermit the Frog drinking tea, and it was the social media image. And I replicated that, and it was to social media people, and just a subtle dig at them to go. And so I was like, yep, I'm going to have photos of these 4 championship rings. And you sort of those iconic, like Jordan, Tom Brady, Bill Russell. And I sort of no, I have my moment. Obviously, I'm not comparing myself to these goats.
Jordan, Brady, Russell, higher.
Oh, exactly.
There's your Mount Rushmore of sports right there.
People are like, what a douche. But anyway, so I was like, I packed it. And I drove to the airport with Jesse and Damo, and as I literally was just outside our suburb, I remembered, I was like, I forgot it, it's not there. And so I just quickly turned around, drove around and got back in the house, and Jesse's like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh no, I forgot something. And so anyway, when it got done and I took the photos, and everyone was like, that's awesome, how bloody good, Adam Ford, we were like, mate, look at this, is literally 4 rings, you can't get much better. And then Jesse was like, when did you think about this? And I was like, mate, you remember when I tried to go, or when I drove back to the house and forgot it, that was why. And he was like, you are an idiot. He's like, if that's you told me that was it, I would not let you. That's massive. You could have easily jinxed us. And I was like, tell me about it, mate. And I just didn't tell anyone. I just cut it, made it subtle. But as soon as I was like, nah, I knew there was a reason. I don't know, it was bizarre. But yeah, I did it, and there was a lot, and exactly a few people. Phil Paul was like, I bloody love it, but he was like, I tell you what though, if we lost, I would have been blaming you straight away. Worked out well.
That's a great story, just backing yourself in there nicely. Tell us a bit about the actual game, because I always find it funny with grand finals and stuff. During the course of the season, you can analyse each game to within an inch of its life, and then you win the most important one. Yeah. And then it becomes not about the game, it becomes about something so much more, and legacy and success and future and all the rest of it. The game itself was great on Sunday. You guys almost had to win it 3 times over. You pulled ahead late in the first, and then got pegged back, and then that great run when you were on the floor in the second. Yeah. And then that got pegged back straight after halftime. And then we're able to pull ahead in the second half. For you specifically, that second quarter, that 7.5 minute stretch, when you came in, Terrico had just picked up his third foul. I think Casper Ware was at the line hitting 2 to put them up 8. Yep. Damo was about to pick up his third foul as well. And you guys were able to swing it from there to be able to make that kind of contribution. What was your mindset going into that, and how proud are you that you were able to make that contribution?
Yeah, huge. There's so many different storylines behind it. It's funny, Damo and I, our partners came over on Saturday night, and so we were driving to catch up with him, and Damo was like, how do you feel? How does it, have you thought about it? What's going on? And Damo is like, we haven't really spoken about it much. And I was like, to be honest, mate, it's a weird feeling, because I knew we had a second game potentially. If we lost, we were going to come back home, and so I knew it's not my last game. It wasn't the final one. But as well, I said to him, I said, I felt like I haven't really. I know I've contributed to the series, I've played, but I felt like I haven't. Yes, I'm a member of the team, but I haven't had a chance there to change the impact of the game, the outcome of the game yet. And I sort of was I'm yearning for that. I just want that moment, knowing. And so I was I just feel a bit weird, this whole sort of process. And as we had those sort of chats, and Yeah, and the dynamic of the game as the season progresses, like, you know, you coach a decision, and the way Trev coaches as well, like if a guy starts hitting shots, they get on like straight away. And I knew obviously being predominantly Terrico's backup, but as well just the way the rotations, like we were bringing Clint as well to have a little bit of a scoring output. And so I think T hit 2 straight away. And I always joke around with Reese and Tom, the bench guys, like as soon as T hits a shot, I'm like, well, I'll wait till the second quarter till I come back on, come on. And so T hit a 3 straight away, and I was like, all right, good game, guys. Like, this will be fun. And sort of just joked around, and then Clint went, I think he got in, but yeah. And so he had a little bit of a burster, and T never gets in foul trouble. And so when he picked up his third, Clint had already been in the game, and I was like, I'm going to get subbed in here. And so I was like, okay, that's that sort of moment, like that opportunity that I've been, wanting. And so, yeah, like obviously got in, and it was huge. I don't know, like I got emotional at halftime thinking about it, because for my whole career wanting that, like, you always just want to impact a game, obviously on the biggest stage. And like, I'm not trying to be arrogant, but I knew I had changed the impact. Like, I'd changed the way it was, and it wasn't, like I had a hustle point and I was able to dive on the ball and make the extra pass and stuff that my whole career has been built around, like on the last stage. And like, I knew, even though we still had a half to play, I was like, we've won it. Like, I knew how the mood was in the group, and I was like, we've taken their hit. And when we were down 6 or 7, and then it was 8 points, like I could see Melbourne were like, far out, like, this is going to be tough, like it's not what it is. And we were locked in, and guys like Bryce was sort of just like guys like that, you just have this feeling like, yeah, we've got this. And so I sort of was in the half time, and once I'd done the speeches, like I actually really had to collect myself, because I was like, I really wanted that, like that was really big for me. And so obviously to have that moment and really change the game in a way, like I was done, like I was cooked. There was like a minute and a half. I was like literally.
When you saved that loose ball in the corner between your legs, which is if there's a highlight saving a loose ball, that was a highlight saving a loose ball. You looked a little bit gassed after that.
I was eating air, like I was trying, and that's how I always play, and I always ask the coaches for a sub. But I remember there was maybe at the 2.5, and Nelly's the perfect indicator. He knows how like I go all out. Like if I've got a 5, 6, 2 minute, 3 minutes, then I'll go nuts. And there's a lot of time. Dave Philpott, our physio, will always come. He's like, "Are you all right?" And I'm like, "I'm just gassed. Like it's all good." But I always see him, and if I don't need to call a sub, I can see them maybe going to Trev like, "Hey, we need to pull him out. Like he's cooked here." And I was like, "Nah, I'm not calling a sub. Like I don't know if we're going to play again, Like, and I've got my whole life to worry about after that." And so I was waiting, but it was like after the minute and a half, there was a free throws, and I was trying to go myself, and I was just watching the game as soon as like yesterday in bed, and like the camera just panned on me, and I was literally like looked like I was in a world of pain, which I was. And then I think at the 40-second mark left, there was another stoppage, and I was like, all right, I'm cooked here. And I remember like pointing to the bench, because I was like end of the half, and I was like, I don't want them to have momentum. And I was guarding Chris Goulding, and I was like, they're going to run some turnout cuts for him and just isolate me. Like I would, like this guy is struggling as it is. And so I basically like mentioned, I was like getting their attention, and I was basically saying, put Damo in these last 2 possessions, like get a stop. But I think it just like ran out, and it was fine. Like there wasn't collateral damage. Like I wasn't that bad. Yeah. But yeah, it was cool. And it was that 7.5 minutes. Like that's exactly. I could have not like scripted it better, like to do that. Obviously, maybe hit a game winner, but that would have never happened. But that's like,
with the greatest respect, that's not really a style.
Correct.
This was you going out in your style. Greg Hire doing Greg Hire thing, saving that loose ball, that 3-point play. Where you did the fist pump and nearly knocked out. Was it Tommy? Gussie. And also just little things. I think of a couple of contests on Golding. There's one that sticks out in my mind where you were sort of open in the corner for 3 and then passed up a good shot to create a great shot for Nick Kay on the wing. Those little things are title things, and those little things are the things that you're known for. Yeah, and that was... And you're exactly right. Like, to get that O board, like...
yeah, was huge. And yeah, we've always talked about our team being selfless and good to great. Like I was like set, but then I was like Barlow sort of half closed me out, but then obviously thought he's going to shoot it. So then I was like, well, Nick's shooting above 40%. Like played a percentage exactly. Like, you just get with it, and you know a lot of that defensively as well. Like, and we talked about like locking in and stuff like that. I just thought. Yeah, there was just a complete buy-in. Like when you talk about the game, and I've said this a lot now, is like I felt like we played our perfect game at the perfect time of the season. Like we could have not played better. Like, you know, obviously, yeah, there's shots missed and there's turnovers made and all that sort of stuff. But I thought from a team standpoint and the buy-in, it was like, yeah, you could have not done it better. You know, like it was just a perfect game from us.
When did you? I know you said at halftime you were really confident you were going to go on. When did you really know that it was done and you were able to sort of relax? I mean, from my point of view, that first possession of the last quarter when Nick and Mitch combined for the steal took crazy, you guys up from up 11 to up 30. I was like, oh, they should do it now.
Yeah, the moment was when Bryce hit a 3 in a transition. So I think they pressed and then we threw it over and it was like maybe 3.5 left, and then like usually in that situation, just pull the ball out, clock management.
Yeah, but he jacked it straight away.
Yeah, and then like he hit that, and that's when I was like, we've got it. Like, and that was the thing. I thought we owned moments of the game, and it happened we've owned moments throughout the season. Like when we talk about moments, like Terrico, there was the possession there where he got the 4-point play on Barlow. Like it was a nothing sort of thing. He wasn't even looking at the hoop, and then turned around, and then and that, like, just those things when at a critical time you're like, okay, like, oh, they've just hit a big shot, or, you know, a couple of possessions. I just thought, yeah, there was like a big moment there and then, you know, like, and yeah, so like
the baseline play between
Mitch
Nick
Norton
and T.
And then I think Mitch got one as well. Like, and that was the thing. Like, there was just those times, like, it was really cool. Like, and then when you talk about it, like. Couldn't be prouder for Tommy Jervis. Like, that's a guy.
Had a great game. Had a great weekend.
Yeah, like
had a big impact on Friday night, and
absolutely
then was down the stretch on Sunday.
Yeah, and you know, like comes off Friday, has a really like his back was jacked. Like, not fun at all for him. And then I thought he was huge, and just even the physical factor, like just that stuff where. You know, obviously not allowing any easy points for Mitch McCarron, but you talk about it. In the grand scheme of things, like, he gets unsportsmanlike, DJ Ketty gets unsportsmanlike, but it rules it out, and Mitch McCarron doesn't have an opportunity to shoot 2 free throws. Like, those little things are huge, like, come a grand final game, and that's a guy that, was, if we were talking about jobs on the line and people being sacked, that's a guy that was right up there, you know, like, halfway through the season, but then for him to go out and, on his last game of the season... huge. Like, I mean, I think he played the whole second quarter. Like, really, after Gus was there, and Gus played really well, but I thought he was unreal.
Was he close to not playing at all?
Nah, he was fine.
Or was he always going to play?
Yeah, nah. I mean, you get that done. Like, I can open up now. I've been getting locals in my shoulder for the last 8 games.
How's that feeling?
Yeah, it's nice to. I mean, the last jab, because obviously the first local jab in the AC joint is like pleasant, but then after you get it done and it's going Friday, Sunday, and like consistently going. It's not ideal. So to play with that, like you're gonna do everything. I mean, that was. To not being able to feel anything in your shoulder was always good. The only good thing about it was after a game I could have a lift and not know what weight I would be, because I had no feeling on the top of my AC joint. So, but I mean, it's a grand final. I mean, Tommy, like, no matter what you would have done, you would have played. Illness, you always do anything. I mean, there's been so many times. I remember playing against New Zealand, being in bed for 4 days, throwing up, lost 7 kilograms before we played, and I was just on any sort of drug to sort of clog me up, and then it's grand final series, like, you're not going to pass up an opportunity to play.
And last one on the game on Sunday, might not be the last one on the game on Sunday, but tell us about the emotions of going back on the court for the last minute or so, composing yourself to shoot free throws and nail both of them incidentally. What was that like in those final moments?
I honestly didn't know if I was going to get back on, and obviously I just kept hoping, like, I'll keep pushing out the lead so we have that time, and then I thought, it might be a little bit later, and then he put me on still with... I was like, it's 13 points. It's not that. It's still far away. And then I think I subbed out Tommy, and it was just me and Nick. And I was like, oh, sweet. I'm going to be playing the 4 man. Like, I haven't done this for a while. And and then got the free throws, and it was funny. Like, it was joking. I remember, I think Bryce or Damo was like, they were talking. I think they said, oh, game's done. And then Bryce sort of yelled, or Damo had yelled, like, no, game's not done yet. We've still got like a little bit of time. But when I got fouled, Damo came up to me, he's like, you won't bank the second. And so we sort of like laughed, and which was good because I needed it to kind of oppose myself. And then I thought, maybe I will. Like, and then I thought, no, that's such an...
Venky Joyce did, like a few seconds later. I don't know if he had that arrangement either.
But I was like, nah, like those people would be like, Greg's an arrogant fool. So I was like, nah, I'll shoot it properly. And it was really good. And then it was like looking back, and I've been watching that end a lot, like it was perfect. And obviously I was like, there was one, I think, because Bryce, T and those guys were just trying to get buckets because I was open on the other side, and they just pulled the pin, and I was like, hey, give me the ball. But and then it was perfect. Like, Jesse obviously had this time to foul, which I don't think he meant to. And the range of emotions, like sit on literally we're lining up for the free throw line, seemed like an eternity. In that, I just was like thinking back to being my very first day of rocking up to a gym just across the road, down the road here. My very first day as a Wildcat player, and walking in, and Cameron Tover was the first guy that I saw, and then second guy was Brad Robbins, and that was my first day. Like, I just was straight away thinking about that, and then going, well, like, wow, 9 years later, and 4 championships, and so it was really cool. And then it was like sort of a lot of respect. Smith Milner literally said to me because then I was like, oh, how am I going to get the ball here? Like, Venky Joyce doesn't shoot good free throws. No. So I was like, that ball could end up anywhere. And but he was like, just tapped me, and he said,
sorry, kind of patted me on the back.
And then he just sort of said, yeah, I'm not contesting. And I was like, appreciate it. And obviously he got it in, and it was cool, obviously, to get the ball. And I lost my bundle after that. And it was really cool. Bryce did one of the more... I think I've got goosebumps now. Before the game, Bryce speaks up, and he rarely does. He does a lot. He does at critical times. So even when we're upstairs and in our locker room, you've got your voices. Damo will speak, myself will speak. Then obviously people will go, and when Bryce speaks,
you listen.
Yeah, he's just. It's like Jesse, but Bryce isn't even another level. Imports generally don't do that. I remember having imports, they just say the right thing. They just want to say what the coach expects them to say. But Bryce is there's been a few times, I remember, when we were losing a few games, and he's like, we always talk, we have the same chats, but he's like, I'm sick and tired of these chats. We keep losing the same way. Let's make it thing, if we lose, we lose because of a different way. And I was like, it's not just a lot of crap. It's not. And so every time Bryce, I'd always be like, mate, we talk about this, but he's bloody good at everything. Yep. But he
except just driving.
Exactly. And so before the game, everyone's obviously pumped, you were the weekend winner championship, and Bryce literally got all the guys in and gave this pretty motivational speech talking about the season and what we're against now, and it was perfect. You could have not, and usually Damo may just say a little few words, but the effectiveness is that much better because you weren't expecting it. So him just saying that was legit, and I was and those little things like that, you're we're ready to go. That was just perfect. You could have not said, hey Bryce, can you do that? He just owned that moment, and so me and Bryce, it's like funny, but the dynamic in our relationship is pretty good. Like we always have, like we have a lot of laughs, but he's the one guy that whenever we're going through lols, I can get honesty from him. That's the thing. Like whenever I ask him, he doesn't give me crap. Like I'll get answers from other guys of what you're expected to get. Mm-hmm. He legitimately cares and has that knowledge, and so he's usually the first guy I would go to, like after something, because I want to know, because I know what I'm going to get from him. Whether he go, like, you know, so to hug him after the end was pretty cool, because again, he just like brought me in and just was sort of speaking about how good it is to go on top and could have not done it better and all that sort of stuff. So it was really good, and like it. And then obviously the guys around me and stuff like that. That was it was amazing. And then obviously when Ainsley and Sully came down on the court, like I've been trying to get the footage, and Ainsley was like, "I got it." Like someone sent it to me, and I was like, "I've been looking for it for 3 days," because that was like. I couldn't compose myself. Like that was a really emotional time. Yeah. Being able to share that with your closest is the best feeling in the world for sure.
What did the little guy say to you?
No, he was just like, trying to ask where the basketballs were. So because he just loves that. So it was really cool. Like it was to be able to do that, and obviously even just seeing the kids like interact afterwards with the confetti and running around, and and sometimes just not even caring. Like there's this gigantic trophy being in there, and he doesn't care. Like in a way, he was just happy that he's getting to hang out with his dad, which was really cool. Yeah. And then like it's cool. Like Damo put up a photo with Brittany kissing the trophy, which I thought was like the best
photo of Maggie kissing the photo is great. And someone noted that there's two guys on the trophy, one of them obviously going up with the ball and another guy defending. She's kissing the defender, which is just, for Damien Martin's kid to be doing that awesome. Is just, you funny, couldn't script it.
Yeah, it was because Sully and them and Brittany was like, kiss the trophy, and Sully was just looking at like, why would I be kissing this random dude? Like, I'm not doing that. So, it was cool. It was sick. But yeah, those, moments, like obviously looking back, you can't... I can watch it all the time. Like those like last few moments, and awesome feeling.
Tell us about cutting down the net, being the last guy to do that, and specifically the celebration where you sort of put it over your face, your eyes. Is that like a superhero thing? Who was the inspiration?
It's a bit of a G up. So Trev 2 years ago, and we'll have to find the photo, track it down if people don't see it, but. The beautiful thing about media, and in recent times it's happened, but every time we do photos, sometimes the worst photo is the one that makes the press.
Yeah, we try and deliberately do that to make it look bad. No, I'm just kidding. We don't.
But so I remember there was like a story, and then there's a photo and Trev's celebrating, but it's like as Trev's put the net and it's stuck around his face. Okay. So... And it looks hilarious, and it circulated in our group chats, and we're like, what? This is like, you couldn't get the better photo. So even on our Mad Monday, Dave Philpott got a shirt made up, and it was like with Trev with this net like around his face. And so we've been G'ing it up, and it's just been like this like sort of folklore sort of story. So then as soon as like Trev and credit to him, he said, look, cut it down, and I was like, oh, sweet. Obviously kept going back and forward, and I forced Hudson. I was like, nah, you're the coach, you go ahead. And then he was like, no, you get it. And I was like,
he probably wouldn't have let you if he knew you were about to take the piss out of him.
And then so when I got up, I obviously did it, and then pointed to the guys, and then Trev lost it because Trev like loved it. He was like, oh, can I grab that t-shirt? He like loved it, and he was like, oh, you can't get it better. Like, and so I was just trying to do that. So really cool. Nets now, like obviously in there, like it was, sleeping like with the net, like falling asleep with it, and not sleeping, but falling asleep with it, and then literally like waking up in the morning with the trophy there, and like my little daughter just slapping me in the face, and at 7:30 in the morning to wake up, but like Ainsley was like, I can't believe you actually brought the trophy to bed. I was like, Ainsley, it's not leaving me. One, I'll lose it.
It's a part of me now.
Yeah, so it was good.
And the change room stuff, we saw the horses, the Spirited Horses rendition, and then Mitch Norton stealing the show.
How good.
With his red budgie smugglers. Yeah. Fantastic stuff.
It was good, and like So this is even because obviously the traditional selfie, I was like thinking, oh, what am I going to do? And only a few weeks ago, I think Balotelli, the soccer player, he did like a live.
After he scored a goal.
Correct.
Yep.
And so he went like Instagram Live, and I thought, oh, I should do that. But then I was like, nah, like you're going to get the photo. So then I was like, screw it. And then I thought, no, this would be cool for people to sort of see, and it was just perfect timing. Obviously, horses is my spirit animal, like my song. If people don't know, like I play that song all the time.
I think it's the most Australian thing ever for that song to be one of our anthems, but pretty much no one knows like the verse, but then you just sort of just like mumble your way through it, and then bam, the chorus hits.
So and then I wasn't expecting the auto to do that, bring out the Russell Coit
That's great.
dance impersonation, and now it's good. Obviously got a text from a member of the staff saying it might have not been appropriate, but I was like,
that's okay.
It's all right. It's only budgies. I wear them to Adventure World. Like, it's all good. So, so it was good. Nothing all clean. And, you want to be able to, that's the beauty of social media. You can, I guess, give a little glimpse into what the... what it is like in a change room, like because you get your photos and stuff like that, and there's some like unseen footage that sometimes the Wildcats get, but I wanted to give a glimpse into what it's all about and get guys at their peak, like when they're like for those guys that experience the first time, it's awesome to see, like on the plane, and you like look back and like Mitch is literally just staring at the ring, like, and you look at him and he just goes like, how bloody good is this? Like, can't believe it, like. Those guys, obviously, I've been very fortunate to experience it 4 times, but those guys that, they would have been at other clubs in grand final series, it's like a special feeling to share that with those guys.
A couple of weeks ago, before the grand final series started, I put a piece up on the website sort of ranking Perth's titles in terms of greatness, in terms of most memorable. Had the first one there, which was pretty much the perfect score, and that was followed by the Bryce Cotton 45-point ridiculous season, imports coming and going in 16-17. Where does this rank for you in terms of the ones you've played in, and also in terms of Wildcats championships? How do you sort of rank it?
I'd have to say easily it's the best. I think just because of the circumstances, and I think because of how hard it was this season, like, and it seems funny because you're like, well, we're still sitting on top of the ladder when we're going through that rut, and that seems hard. But, there was a lot of outside noise, more than it's ever been, and it was always because of that second import situation. And I'm sure there'll be more and more stories pop up over the next few days, weeks, even once it sort of settles down. But, for me, there was a point where I was like thinking about retiring, like at the start of the season. I was like, there's a fair chance I'd retire, and then halfway through the year, then obviously I forgot about that because I was playing, like, had a really good role, and then once that sort of point where it was like, are we bringing a third import in? I literally went to Matt Nilsson's house after we lost the Cairns game, and I had no sleep at all on Friday night because we had lost, and we went, and it was crazy because like Trev literally got the group before, like I think maybe it was on Wednesday or Thursday, and he sort of was like, this is the group we're going with, like no changes will be made or something around those lines, and so it was like, okay, fair enough. And you never know though, right? Like even though he says that, and then we lose the Cairns, who had only won like 2 games. And, there was obviously a lot of external pressure and all that sort of, and I remember going in at Nellie's house, and I was in tears, and I was just like, really, don't want to compare being rock bottom, but that I was at the lowest in my career, and I sort of was like, mate, I know there's been all this, like, if it's the best thing for the club, like in terms of thinking about a third import, take the loyalty aside and what I mean to the club and what I've done for the club and all that sort of stuff, I'll resign if you guys think it's a better thing to do, like to bring in a third import, and if that will win this championship, because I want guys to experience winning a championship, and which is a tough decision. Like Like, and I still was like hard, and then Nelly was like, no, he was just like, it's impossible. Like, we're not going to do it. And then he was like, well, are you ready to still play? And I was like, I'm hungry. Like, that's the thing. I know I can contribute. And then that was like, no, I'm doing this for the team. Like, let's have buy-in. Let's keep working hard. And then like obviously parked because I was like, no, I'm not retiring yet. Like, I'll still play. It's not like I'm done. Like, mentally, I'm there, but just wanted to be, do what maybe was the right thing to do, and then so that whole storyline, and obviously then announcing retirement, and that whole year, like no one really expected us to win, even from the get-go, from this first season. Like, when I thought we had signed our guys, and obviously you're getting trounced by Utah by 58 points, and everyone's like, these guys suck, and I was like, this is the first time playing NBA. There's not
That's
relative,
okay, because it's Utah.
And even that, I was like, it doesn't matter for the NBL season. Like, we're growing. Like, we were always about that.
But I was thinking about this yesterday. I think the thing that escaped that hype about the NBA stuff, the big loss to Utah, was the fact that you followed it up and gave Denver a really good shake. Only lost by 7 or 8 or whatever it was, and Denver's the second team in the West right now. They've taken the leap.
So we're pretty much like should be in the West.
So you're pretty much sort of third or fourth ranked team in the West. Yeah.
And then we've had to laugh because sometimes people will be like, when we like lose to Denver, Utah lost by like 40 to some team, and we're like, we're 98 points worse. And then, but when we like Denver, we're like, we're better than Golden State. Like,
that's it. That's exactly how it works. Yeah.
But like, even, and that's the thing. It's been the storyline of that whole team. Like, even when we lost to Utah, it wasn't like, that was pretty deflating, but like, we ended up going to a bar and like just as a team, and just having a few drinks and just talking, like, because that was what our the trip was. The purpose of the trip was to build as a group and to connect. And we had a lot of new pieces, like, with Terrico, with Nick and Mitch. It was obviously we wanted to win a game, but like, it was more so like, we want to be on the road for 2.5 weeks, and that off the court stuff is huge. Like, you can't measure what that is in terms of how important it is to a group. So that was really like that whole story. And then obviously when you talk measuring the success, what it means, obviously retiring and knowing it's my last few games, to be able to finish out on top. Like, I was so fortunate when Sean retired that year and he finished as a champion. Like, like you can't get much better, and so many people just want a chance to win a championship. To be able to retire as an NBL championship winner on your last game, you can't script it any better, So in terms of their success, obviously each one means a lot. And the first one, you're like, oh, you got there. But just this whole storyline and what we've gone through, and I think that only adds to the meaning behind it, because there's been so much, behind the scenes that people don't really know about, that you're like, it was pretty bloody crazy at times. And to be able to win, especially on the road to defending champions, who everyone had said, like I didn't know one expert or commentator that had I watched the overtime show and it was 3-1, 3-1, 3-1 Melbourne, like, it was like,
I got the 3-1 part right anyway.
Yeah, exactly right. But it's like, I don't understand that. Like, we were on top of the ladder, like, for a reason, and it worked out then.
Yeah. In terms of the doubters and the haters, I know you like to use that, or you have liked to use that as motivation in previous years. Did you store anything up? Did you sort of take note of some comments?
No, for sure. There's actually a really cool story, and I shared it with Jesse on the way home last night. Like, I might have told you, or might have said a story, and I won't tell them because I don't need exposure for their business, but Ains and I went to a place to grab a coffee. It was like we had a day off and it was a Sunday, so I went to grab a coffee. And as I was there, like, someone looked at me, and there was a guy, and I was like, oh, it'll be a Wildcats fan, and I was like, oh, I was like, oh, he might come out for a photo. And so I'm like looking, I'm like, why do I know this guy? Like, there's a vivid face. Like, why do I know him so well?
Yep.
And then I was like, I know why. He's talked crap. Like, I've had tweets at me from this guy. And so I literally told Ainsley, and she's like, and I was with my father-in-law, and anyway, didn't know. So Ainsley's like, go just talk to him. And I was like, nah, no point, just leave it, whatever. Anyway, parked that away, and weeks on, I'm walking up, after the first game of the NBL Grand Final Series, walk up the grandstand and I see the same fella, and And I'm like, oh my God, fancy that. And he always talks crap about myself and Jesse. And so, and I've like got him and sort of like kept it there. Because when you get that, like, that's the thing. Like, I understand it's a fan, like, you know, and you go through those times. And Wade Dobson put a pretty good tweet up the other day, and I thought that was really, really, like... The
doubters after
correct,
that Cairns
like,
loss,
just saying 2 months and just reading some of those comments, like, I had to have a chuckle. Like, I'm going to put it, like, tweeters. I thought it was awesome because, like, even some of the comments, like, get rid of our membership, and it's like, you know, I understand there's passion and there's all that sort of stuff, and but yeah, like, we're in it. Like, you don't have, you know, it's funny. And anyway, so as I'm walking on the grandstand and his partner tries to take a photo, and I'm like, well, obviously they've got their little group of friends and they go take photos, and they say, oh, look, it's Greg, like, you know, whatever. And so anyway, and she took a photo, and then I just leant in and I said, I said, how bloody good was Wagstaff tonight, mate? Like, because he always, and he
hit
just
a couple of threes in that game,
and he was just like, looked at me and was like, oh, like, obviously, like, oh, like, I didn't realise he knew this. And then, told Ainsley, and Ainsley was like, did you say it about a malicious way? I was like, no, but, like, I know, like, and I, you know, not trying to be aggressive, but love it. And the funny thing, man, like, now his profile is private, so I don't know if he's talking crap about me, but that's the thing, like, you know, just like that sort of stuff. And, you know, I had this discussion with Ainsley the other day, and I'll write a bit more about it, but because there was obviously so many things, and I have saved it over time, and you get some stuff, like even at the airport, and I can't say it on air because it's too vulgar of what they said. The reason why Greg gets court time is because he must, you know, whatever. Anyway, use your imagination.
Yeah, we can fill in the blanks.
But then at the airport, you see that guy, and he's taking a photo and being like best mates, and you're like, I always just want to say, like, really? Because, like, we're real people, you know, like, and there's real life. If I did this in your job or anything, people would be like... Yeah,
I think that's what fans forget sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
There's passion, but then...
Yeah, and so you sort of like, and it's like, and as well, it's social media, mate. It's there. Like, you can save it for these things, you know. My biggest thing is, and I'll write a piece about it, is as a parent now, I have a different scope. I want to challenge, like, because Ainsley was like, please do not start putting up photos of your rings and drinking tea and inflaming the situation, because she was like, that's all people want, you're feeling the fire. I'm like, I understand that. My thing is now it's like, I actually want to, the next time I talk about it, or in a few weeks, is to actually get people thinking about the dynamic of it, because some of the people that I see writing, their profile picture is them with their kids, and so, like, I want them to go, if your son ever becomes a professional athlete, or even nothing, like they play for a state team, but your kids read hate, words, hurtful, whatever it may be, how would you feel? Like, what would you do, you know, in that scope? Like, would you be proud of doing that if your tweet was put on the back of a newspaper with absolute nonsense and garbage? Would your parents even look at you and go, like, what are you doing? Like, you know, like, would your boss think that's appropriate? Like, your job's on the line, you know? So all that sort of stuff, there's a context. And I understand social media, but there's a lot of it that, I think, and that's why I think I'm now, as I spoke to Haynes, is like actually trying to educate people. Like, and people are like, well, have tougher skin, you know, don't read it, all that sort of stuff. And I spoke about this after the game when someone spoke about the dynamics of the thing. You can't escape it. And this is the thing, like I said, my mum, when was reading stuff and reading the newspaper or whatever, like literally gave me a call because she was like, oh, I know you're doing youth work. If you do get fired, here's this job opportunity that's come up. And I like laughed. And I was like, Mum, I'm not getting fired, but thank you. So like these are your family members and your closest, like that. They can't escape that, you know, like there's times where I've gone in and Ainsley, like those times where against Cairns, and unfortunately she isn't reading, but she just does it. And there's other wives of players and partners that do that, unfortunately. And it got to the point where, I'd walk in and Ainsley's is crying, you know, because of the absolute garbage that's read. And so that's my thing now, is moving on, is like trying to educate as a former player, that I can sort of open up a little bit and say, hey, just, you know, actually try and think about it, take away the emotion of it. You know, there's a little bit more to it. Yeah,
I think a lot of fans can be better in that regard. The vast majority are excellent,
exactly,
but like all social media,
and that's the thing, I've loved interacting with people all the time,
yeah.
You know, like, and there's a lot of positive to it. You know, there's so much, you know, message of support that I've received. undeniably, like, yeah, that's the thing. Unfortunately, the negative stuff, because as it goes, it's far in between. You know, like people are more inclined to read the negative stuff just intrinsically in your mind, but as well as like people know, like they won't write messages support because they just don't like. But it's easier to write negative stuff, and that chances unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. We're running way over time. I want to get to a real quick fire round from the fans. Fans Twitter questions. This first one from our good mate Adam Westerhout. Would love more insight into the mindset of Terrico. He shut his Twitter down as soon as the playoffs started. For a guy that doesn't say much, when he does say something, it means a lot, and clearly he was using the doubters as motivation. Can you sort of expand more on Terrico?
I don't know if, like, even if he had Twitter, like, even though I brought it up with him, so I don't even know if he had Twitter. But, like, I don't think he shut his social media down because, like, I definitely saw him on Instagram all the time. But, no doubt he was trying to prove naysayers wrong. And
did so handsomely.
Exactly right. And it's tough. Like, in the whole, like, scheme of things, like, you look at him and... like, I thought he had a really good year, and it was only unfortunate that low. Like, they have to blame someone, and the import's usually the easiest scapegoat. And he had those where he didn't score in the fourth quarter. But I was like, he was pretty bloody good. And for those, like, he is a tough bugger. He played through a pretty significant injury with his knee that never really. His wrist is like a very significant injury, but he never ever once complained and always continued to try. Like, even Bryce had like a torn tendon, like all that, you know,
I've
like
seen that,
all this sort of stuff that, like, obviously we don't delve into it during the season, but, like, you know, some pretty, like, you're like, this is, you know, those circumstances. But for him to come to the top, and I knew that was going to be the case. Like, Bryce was so unselfish, but the way Terrico's mindset, like, he just kept going, and I was like, I mean, that's the thing. I played against him every single day. I was like, he's quality. Like, there's been other times, you know, you look at import and like, they're going to struggle for consistency because they just don't bring it at training. And I was like, no, he's pretty good. But I don't think he was that, but he's a proven big time player in this league now, and obviously around the world. And so you knew he was going to come to the top.
Yeah. People expect so much of the imports straight off the bat. Everyone expects, you know, they're going to score 25 points a game straight off the bat. Whereas Terrico,
and I think the thing that was he was so quiet and unassuming, and it's like he didn't care. You know, where he's not a guy that beats his chest.
Correct.
He's not like a guy that.
I wrote about this earlier in the year where I compared him to Tracy McGrady, and so he's sort of got that sort of sleepy look in his eye, and then people compare you to someone like a Jacob Wiley from Adelaide, who's yelling and beating his chest on big plays,
no doubt,
and he becomes an easy target for people to say this guy's not locked in, he's disinterested or whatever it is.
I could not agree more, and that was the thing. There'll be times where I was like people would say it, like, they would be like, oh, it's like he doesn't care. And I was like, no, he cares. But, like, mate, this guy doesn't really, like, he doesn't talk all the time, you know, like, in the team. Like, that's just who he is as a person. It's not, exactly. He doesn't, just because he's not pointing to his name, the team, or smashing his chest, it doesn't mean he doesn't care. But
people sort of also forget that, he's been a pro somewhere else and he's had success somewhere else, but this still is... You know, for imports coming in, it's still their first season in the league. You need a little bit of time just to feel out, know what calls you can get, know your teammates' tendencies. And in that regard, I thought during the week after that Friday night game, his run was really similar to Kevin Lish's run in his first season, where he was started pretty slowly and then won grand final MVP, and then also Jermaine Beale. It was exactly the same.
I joked around with Damo and Jesse. I said, like, when we're driving, I was like, it reminds me a lot, and I was like, Terrico's going to get the MVP here because of the attention that Bryce gets and how hard it is. But and because Terrico can punish him, and obviously then he just kept getting better and better, and obviously, like, rebounding. I thought he was really good in the series where he didn't do it as much, and that was the thing. I was like, you know, unfortunately for Bryce, like, because their scouting plan is now just to get the ball out of his hands, and in a way they sort of disrespect Terrico, and he's the main guy, and he had capabilities, but I couldn't play. He timed his run well. I mean, now if you're doing contract offers, like, as I joked to Terrico as soon as we're in the locker room, I was like, just put an extra zero in your contract, mate. You're an MVP. So,
absolutely, name your price. This one from Luke Waring, who's congratulated you on a great career and said, do you wish you'd experience another club in the NBL at any point?
Nah, honestly, nah. I mean, the closest was Rob Beveridge hit me up with a contract 3 years ago. Did I consider it? No doubt. You have to as a professional, and I thought it could be an exciting new challenge to go there, but never wholeheartedly was a real big option. I'll obviously always stay here, hometown team. wanted to compete for a championship. That's what you do here, and knew I could grow as a person, as a player, and that was the best platform to be able to be in. And so, no regrets in that regard.
This question from TKD. Give us the inside scoop. Is Terrico coming back next year? Splash Brothers for years to come.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a clue when we haven't even had those chats. I would hope so. I mean, you always say that, and take away the sentimental side, you win a championship and all that regard. I think he is a perfect import in terms of, I think you can argue the case. One, you're no longer going to be able to get those draft guys that we've had in the past in terms of, James and the draft, because with the two-way contracts, it's too hard.
Who incidentally was all over Twitter congratulating you guys on Sunday afternoon, so he hasn't forgotten his roots, which is great to see.
Like that. But on the other side, I think you get him. He plays defense. He's a high character guy, like bought into the system and the culture. Obviously contracts and salary obviously becomes an issue, but I think you've got a perfect guy that fits the system, knows what it's about, knows the league now. He's only going to get better.
Yep.
So it'd be a no-brainer for me to get him.
This one from Sports Central. Does Greg have any desires to coach one day?
Yeah, Look, I think it's such a different dynamic. When I said this, I'd love to be involved with the academy next year, those guys, and sort of dip my toes in a little bit. I think there's so much more to it, like obviously the scouting staff and all that, but I'd definitely love to help the next up-and-comers and just more so off the court, like what it means to be a professional, how to be committed, what to do. I love the game and the intricacies of it and the philosophies, but that doesn't really make me tick. I don't watch scouting, watch Jacob Chance and those guys are getting the X and O's.
Yep.
Whereas for me, it's about personal player development and how can you get the best out of yourself. So obviously I'll try and have those discussions with the club if I can be involved in some capacity. Some people have been would you have talking about trying to be an assistant coach now and stuff. Well, one, that's disrespectful to what the coaches have done at the moment. There's so much more that I need to do from that. So that's not on that manner, but as well, it'd be too tough with some of the guys that you've just sort of retired and stuff like that. But I'd love to be able to work with your Warnies and your Cole Bowens and the next sort of WA guys that are coming through to sort of get them ready. So it's not once they get to the Wildcats, it's a whirlwind for them. It's they're already prepared once they get in there.
Yeah. This one from Rabble. What's your favourite memory of an individual performance in your career? And have you had any thoughts of pulling a Richard Jefferson-style unretirement?
Yeah, obviously it's fresh in my mind. Obviously Game 4 and that sort of second-minute patch. And then obviously Game 3 against Adelaide when Jimmy got in foul trouble and again had that moment where was able to change the game. And those would be my most, those two games. Just knowing that you sort of really impacted it. So those two games for sure.
From our friend Nick Tan, is Greg still angry with Sean Redditch for not passing to him on that fast break for a dunk?
Of course, I'll never live that down. That's what I was hoping. I thought Melbourne would just sort of be here's your moment to dunk, go ahead. I've only got myself to blame. I had a sitter. I think maybe Game 2 over there off a baseline play, and I was I should have dunked it. And I was no, who am I kidding? There was no chance of that.
This one from Matthew Murphy. If you could have played with anyone, who would it have been? I'm assuming he's talking league-wide NBL in your time in the league. Are you going down the Paddy Mills, Andrew Bogut kind of angle, or are you going?
Oh no,
I'm going
Mika Vicona.
Nice,
gritty guy. Exactly. I would have loved and unselfish and learn what made him tick. So that would be perfect.
Like it. This one from Jared Goddard. How many dunks are we expecting to see for you playing for Rockingham in the SBL?
Zilch, mate.
Zero?
Now my training load goes down. It's even worse. So no chance.
And finally, from Paul Williams, who's harping back on a tweet from a couple of weeks ago. Has Greg practiced dropping from the Perth Arena roof yet? For those who don't know, Paul put out a suggestion that Greg should dress up as Wilbur coming down with the championship banner. We'll have to see if that can actually happen now.
Mate, lock me in. I'm a bit nervous, but because that's the thing, the unveiling of the banner, usually the team's in the locker room, and I'm the only guy that's going to...
Would you be okay with the height thing, though, coming down from
I'm fine.
You're fine with that?
Okay. No issues in that regard, but whether the Wildcats are happy to put personal injury liability insurance in there, I'm not sure, but... I'm all keen for it, so I reckon there'll be like a little slop. Like Greg's jumping from going down from there, and then like once it's on the ground, they'll just quickly sneak in me like back, and then like pull off the
stunt double,
and then like, wow, Greg did that. Like that's incredible. And then there'll be like 5,000 kids. Like I didn't know Wilbur's Greg High. Like this is weird.
We might have to think about the implications of like Wilbur removing his head, traumatisation.
So like that one time he did a slide and it fell off during the game. And like kids are like, oh, what is
Wilbur's there's a person under there?
For any of those kids listening underage,
that'd be
apologise. Santa's real.
Yes, we've got to round that home, mate. We've got to let you get out of here because that is a long podcast. Thanks to those people who've listened so far. And on a personal note, mate, first of all, thanks for your time over the past couple of years on the pod. It's been great having you here. People don't want to hear from me. They want to hear from the person who is at the coalface, and your insights and honesty have been most appreciated. And then from a career point of view, as we said, perfect way for you to go out, having an impact, the fairy tale finish. I like to think that people have gained an understanding that it's not all about every guy on the team. It's not all about points per game. It's not all about the stats. You've managed to show that as good as you've been on the court, I think you've had a bigger impact on the club and the franchise with your leadership and your locker room stuff off the floor. And then, of course, even more important in life, your off the court stuff with youth mental health and the like, which is only going to get better from there. So thanks for being...
No, mate, it means an incredible amount of... Sorry, mate, like choking up, but it really means a lot from a guy that I admire and respect, and it's been an absolute pleasure being involved in the last 2 years. So with the podcast, whoever has... the shoes to fill, unfortunately, won't fill them, but it's been a pleasure, mate.
We'll see how we go over the off-season. We'd love to have you back in some sort of capacity next summer, and we'll see if we can work that out. And to our listeners, thanks very much for staying with us this season. Hope you're happy with the title success, and stay tuned to Perth Now in the West for all your sport news over the off-season. We'll chat to you next time.
The Dribble Podcast is brought to you by PerthNow, your home of sporting action from home and abroad.